welcome back. We continue with our special coverage here on the SABC. Of course, as we reflect on the life and times of Gertrude Shope. She'll be laid to rest at the West Park Cemetery in Johannesburg. Of course, just preceding her funeral that's taking place at the Great Hall in Wits in Braamfontein. And so as we continue to reflect on her impact at large, we're going to be joined by ANC Veterans League President Snuki Zikakala, as well as SABC News International Editor Sophie Mukwena. Very good morning to the both of you, and thank you for joining us on this arguably somber yet celebratory note. And Mr. Zikakala, I want to start with you at this hour. We're obviously just looking at, how she was affectionately known as Mashope. She had made an indelible mark on our country, on those she served alongside. How would you describe her?
Well, I would describe her as a warm mother and a committed revolutionary, a principled woman, and a woman who was prepared to die for our country. She was very, very concerned, especially for us, some of us were with her in the struggle for national liberation movement. She was concerned about the young women who were leaving the country in 1976, very young, some of them at the age of 14, 15, though she left at the age of 33, but they were at their tender age. And she made sure that these young women, girls are being properly nurtured and that they are not being abused and that they go to school, because education for her, it was very primary. It was important for women to get educated, as you know, that she championed the struggle for women within the African National Congress itself. And I remember vividly when she came to visit Bulgaria, where I studied. I was finishing my PhD. And I had to take her around. The first thing, when she arrived at the airport, said, "Can I be taken to your hostels? I want to see your living conditions. I want to meet with women who are studying with you. How many women are here?" That's the only thing that and are they well looked after? And so she was concerned about the plight of women, to make sure that women are well educated, women are well natured, and women know exactly that they are fighting for our national liberation. And so I think we lost an icon. We are saying above what tree has fallen.
Yeah, well, thank you for those opening remarks, of course, as we pay our last respects to her, the nation in mourning. Sophie, I want to perhaps bring you into the conversation. You had the privilege of interviewing her. You obviously also reminisce with the family last year, celebrating 99 years of her life. Family, having prepared for her twilight years. Perhaps you could speak to some of the sentiments that were shared at that time.
Well, I think she was quite a leader who was very approachable. I remember when Winnie Madikizela Mandela passed on, I also spoke to her, and she invited me to her house, and we had a long conversation about the life and time of Winnie Madikizela Mandela, who became the Women's League president after Mashope. And she was quite clear at that time that what you needed in the country was a committed leadership in terms of all spheres of life, not only in terms of politics. One thing unique about her that I personally discovered or learned from was that she accommodated all South Africans, irrespective of their color, creed, and political persuasion, or whatever you were doing. When she saw someone, she saw a leader. In your own right, you had to be that kind of a person, a disciplinarian. And therefore, she spoke fondly about a need, particularly for women, to continue to fight for the total emancipation of women, because we know that the issues of patriarchy transcend across the board, whether it's at workplace, whether it's in political parties, in churches, in societies, and in the nation in general. At that time, also talking about a need for women to step up and take the leadership role. And then last year, of course, I was assigned to put together a feature in terms of 99th birthday. And I think little did we know that 2 months before the birthday, she would pass on, because you know that she was going to celebrate 100 years in August. But she has now passed on. And at that time, I spoke to the family, and also the family emphasizing the fact that she would allow her children to be who they wanted to be. You'd recall Gertrude Shope left ANC, joined COPE, and she got a blessing from her mother, because her mother felt that this is a free country, it's a democratic dispensation, and people have a freedom of choice. And therefore, that was the kind of leader she was. And also at that time, I requested Ambassador Taninga Shope, who is based in Botswana, to try and get a soundbite from her. She was quite happy to say something, even though it was very difficult. She was quite senior, and therefore that's the kind of person she was, Meshope, very approachable and always willing to share information. But I think when I was in Tanzania last week, when she passed on, I spoke to the former South African president, whom I spoke to last year before her birthday, and he did share a lot of information in terms of Mashope, and at that time even a reminiscence about the fact that she was at some point in time in Morogoro in Tanzania, where we were, and then from there Nigeria, and of course Zambia, and therefore that's typical Mashope. She was a soldier, she was a trained MK, few leaders at that time, and then of course mentoring young women, as we heard from the former ANC Women's League. Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula was very close to her, and they were mentored by her, and therefore taking the leadership later. And I think that was the kind of a person who was willing to share information and build others and ensure that there's a succession in terms of leadership.
Well, it's clear that there are common threads about the way she was described by those who loved her dearly, and also the privilege of interacting with her, kind, warm-hearted, nurturing. Mrs. Zikakala, on the back of what Sophie's just echoed, perhaps you could also just speak to her impact and the work that she obviously accomplished beyond advocating for the agency of women, fighting against these social political constructs of the time, pre and post-apartheid. Also just looking at, her role in disseminating information, really having played that pivotal role in the formation of the publication, The Voice of Women. Tell us a little bit more about the mark and the impact that has also had to date.
Well, she had an incredible impact within the ANC itself. As you know, that when the ANC was unbanned in 1990, the ANC had to start building structures of the ANC from branch, regions, and the province and national. And she made sure that in all these structures, women are represented. And that is why she was elected as the president of the Women's League in December 1991. And we find it very difficult for ourselves as the Veterans League to build structures of the Veterans League. Currently, as Veterans League, we have 3,000 members, and yet we are unbanned. But for us as Veterans League, we have to make sure that those who are coming into the Veterans League are people who are credible, ethical, and we have to screen them. But it's not that easy. But for her, she was interested. She was to make sure that the Women's League is built. Secondly, she made sure that in all structures of the ANC, from branch level, women are fully represented. Coming to regions, women are fully represented. Coming to provincial structures, women are fully represented. She was not compromising on women's issues. That's what is important. And so as we are saying that as Veterans League, she was a champion of women's emancipation. So the champion, a person wanted to make sure that women, because she used to say, for instance, when we were in exile, that women are oppressed 3 times. There's triple oppression of women. Firstly, they are oppressed at home. Secondly, they are oppressed at work. Thirdly, they were oppressed by the state institutions, because women were oppressed by apartheid regime. People forget that women did not have the right to live with their husbands, especially in urban areas. Women were not even educated, were not allowed to work in senior positions in government. Currently, when you look at the public sector, women are key currently. They occupy senior positions in government. Women are now chartered accountants, are engineers. Women are qualified, better qualified than men. That's what she's proud of. She just wanted women to see women thrive, women being articulate, women having better positions within the African National Congress and the country as a whole. As I say, that she was a champion of women, and really was saddened by her passing, but she made sure that she leaves a mark in the country itself.
Yeah, absolutely. She was also, on record, and I'm going to paraphrase, just also on the back of what Fanon echoed. It's important for each generation to know and understand its mission. Hers was to fight for the liberation of our country. And she obviously asked all of us, what is yours? Really just speaking to her clarity and her vision at large. And Sophie, I want to bring you back now. If we just look at, her life and times in exile, from Botswana to Zambia to Tanzania, even just you having returned from Tanzania, we obviously just looking at, the role that she played. Tell us about the sentiments that had been reflected in that time, a relationship with Bram Fisher as well. When he urged her to join her husband, Mark, in exile, the impact that this would have also had on the family. I'm just asking this obviously on the back of what you said about, family wanting to celebrate her twilight years, the sacrifices that really went into that for all of them.
Well, I think the story of women is not properly told in terms of their contribution to the struggle. We often get to be told about Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, Nelson Mandela, Zephaniah Mutopeng, all these men. But women, we don't really tell their story. And as Dr. Snuki Zikakala has indicated, they had to deal with triple oppression, in all spheres of life. And not much has changed, I must say. People can think that post-1994, yes, a lot has changed, but a lot still needs to be done as it relates to women. They are still experiencing challenges that Bomme Shope had to grapple with, because you have to look after your family, you have to prove yourself at work, you have to push in political spheres. I mean, look at South Africa, the politics of South Africa now. Women were there, but where are the women in the presidency? When you look at the Liberation Organization, when you look at Namibia, there's progress because you have a woman president who is leading SWAPO also. And as we speak now in Tanzania, Chama Penduza, the conference there, there's hope that perhaps the current president, Sulu Hassan, will be elected as the leader of Chama Penduza. So there's a bit of a movement. But in reality, a country like South Africa, where, the first liberation organization was born in 1912, South Africa led the way. All other African countries modeled their struggle in relation to the formation of the ANC. You would expect more. And therefore, her passing on comes at a time where I think women must ask themselves hard questions.
Well, we continue to, reflect on our life and times. I want to just thank you, Dr. Snuki Zikakala, of course, ANC Veterans League President, as well as SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, for joining us at this hour to pay tribute to her life and times, the indelible mark that she's obviously made in the lives of all those that she interacted with, perhaps also those who will obviously benefit from the ripple effects thereof.